Hello and good evening. I'm Melisa Idris. Welcome to Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. My guest today has served as the Speaker of Dewan Rakyat until the dissolution of Parliament last Monday. Tan Sri Azhar Azizan Harun, more popularly known by his pen name, Art Harun. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today, and thank you for doing away with formalities, Art. If I may begin our conversation today, I think it's been, is it 2 years and 4 months in the role as Speaker?
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
You were made Speaker without a vote from the MPs. It's, and I think even though so much time has passed, the speculation about why you took up the role hasn't abated. There's still people talking about why you decided to take up the role.
Yeah.
Why did you?
Anyway, hi everyone. Good evening. Thank you for having me here. First comment, I was made a Speaker without a vote. There wasn't any vote because I was the only nominee. So under the standing order, if there was only one candidate, there wouldn't be a vote. The Setiausaha Dewan Rakyat, the clerk of the House, would just announce that the Speaker is so-and-so.
Right. Legal, but was it ethical?
That's legal, the legal...
But was it ethical?
I do not know why the ethical question arises. What?
You don't think that you entered the role in the manner that was, Tan Sri Arif being removed without clear valid reason, that you installed a Speaker without consensus from the very Dewan that you are presiding over? Does it not matter that it should have been put to a vote, even though it was legally correct?
Okay. First of all, Tan Sri Arif was also pronounced as a Speaker without a vote and without consensus. You will remember that the opposition at that time staged a walkout. Yes? So I don't see why the ethical question arises, actually, to be quite frank. But of course, in my case, it may have risen because I was seen as a Pakatan Harapan sympathizer. And I was installed as the chairman of EC by the Pakatan Harapan government. So many people say I was Tun Mahathir's boy. That was the word used, actually. But, I never asked for any position. I was just a law practitioner who, after GE 14, one day received a call and say, we would like to invite you to become the chairman of the EC. I said, what do I know about the election? I wouldn't know how to operate, how to organize election. The answer was, no, you're a lawyer, you know the law. The Secretariat operates the election. They know their staff. You just lead. So after giving some thought, initially I refused, but later I was thinking, okay, I'll give it a try, and I'll do my best. And when I met Tun for the first time, after I became Election Commission Chairman, he didn't even know who I was. He thought I was a government servant. He asked me, which department were you in before? I said, Tun, I wasn't in any department. I was a practicing lawyer. Oh, he said, so you were never in the government? I said, no, I was never. Oh, he said, okay. So that was how it goes.
Okay.
All right. Then I did my best in the EC. I thought I was independent. And even Tun himself, as the Prime Minister, criticized me publicly when I did not allow him to use the government's helicopter to go to Cameron Highland. He criticized me publicly. So I thought I was independent. I was doing quite well. Then, after the Sheraton move, of course, I wasn't involved in the Sheraton move. I wasn't part of it. And it would have been improper for me to be involved, right? Why would I be involved in Sheraton move? These are all political arena. And I was above it. Anyway, after Sheraton move, Tan Sri Muhyiddin became the Prime Minister. He summoned me one day and asked me, how is the SPR? I said, SPR is doing fine. I put up mechanism here and there, for it to be better, and I think we are more transparent now. And they say, oh, I'm asking you this question because I would like you to be the speaker. And that was it, And I said, oh, what will happen to SPR? I said, well, SPR, we will appoint somebody else. So I thought I was supposed to be a speaker just as I was supposed to be the EC chairman. It's a job for me to do. And I accepted it in good faith, I never accepted the job as a sign of support for anybody. It's the same as I was accepting the job as EC chairman. I never took the job as a sign of support for PH. To me, it's a job. And I did my best. And I think as a speaker, I have also done my best. I followed the law all the while. I followed the standing order. I have interpreted it when I need to interpret.
Right. So that is a good point to make, because you are not an elected representative like your deputy speakers are.
Deputy must be elected.
So they have party loyalties, whereas you were in every opportunity was in the position to be impartial in every sense of the word. So why is it that there are many who say that you haven't acted impartially as best you could in the Dewan?
All right. When I was the EC chairman, the opposition then never thought that I was partial. I was impartial. I always had complained that I was not being impartial. I remember talking to Yang Berhormat Lim Kit Siang outside the polling station in Sandakan, if I'm not mistaken. And it became a big issue, that I wasn't impartial. In Cameron Highland, I remember, 2 of the polling stations in the Orang Asli area were closed early. They were closed, I think, at 12 p.m., 12 noon. And I received a lot of flack. Among the accusation was in the DAP area, they are closed at 5:30, but in the Orang Asli area, they close at 12.
So you're saying that allegations of impartiality always come from the opposition, is that what you're saying?
Always do.
But so why is it that the government side hasn't said that you've been unfair to them? It seems impartial because there's an imbalance.
You reckon the government side have not said that?
Have they said
I
that?
disallowed 3 votes from the government side, and they lost SOSMA because they came late.
I remember.
And of course, I do not tell this kind of story because it's part of my job to preserve the dignity of the chair. But complaints will always be there from both sides. I organize forums and I receive calls, how come there are no government MPs in the forum? Right? I do receive that. And
what about the occasions where you've answered for the executive?
I've answered for the executive.
When you were, I think there was a debate between Tengku Zafrul and Lim Guan Eng.
Okay.
You interjected in that.
And that was the only time. That was the only time.
impartial.
Okay, allow me to explain that. Okay, it's good. It's a good question. Okay, that was the debate on the budget. And Tengku Zafrul was supposed to wind up the debate, and we were supposed to vote at a certain time. Because at that time, all MPs were already there. We needed all MPs to be there at that time because, as you would know, you will remember, at that time the government only have very small margin of majority. I think 2 or 3. So everybody was there ready to vote. Okay? And it was the last issue during the winding up of that debate. And Tengku Zafrul was referring to the government side settlement.
The 1MDB settlement.
The 1MDB
That's
settlement.
Right, yes.
And he was showing a letter from, I think, the former Attorney General, Tommy Thomas, to the then Prime Minister, Tun Mahathir, advising the then Prime Minister about the settlement. Yes, and this was to debunk the narrative that the opposition, who was the government then, were not pro-settlement. All right, so he was referring to that. And of course, Yang Muhammad Bagan stood up and he took umbrage to that. And he began attacking Zafrul, I remember. What happened then was, I was trying to calm the situation, and I was telling Tengku Zafrul that your time is up. We need to vote. Please stop this. Then Yang Muhammad Bagan, I remember, then say, did you have any cabinet authority to settle the matter? He kept on pushing that. So I said, I was saying to Tengku Zafrul that, look, you don't need to answer that because it's got nothing to do with the budget. All right, we want to vote on the budget. You are winding up. You are answering questions, okay? And I was also telling Yang Muhammad Bagan that the time to ask questions is over. No more. You see, the procedure in the Dewan is different from school debates. You know, school debate, I say something, you say something. Here, you have had your time to bring up issues. This is the minister's time to answer. And you cannot ask any more questions. You cannot stand up and say, I don't agree with that because blah, blah, blah. No, it's not like that. You can only intervene to ask for explanation. That's it. So I was trying to enforce that. Okay. Right? But Yang Muhammad Bagan kept on pressing. So finally, I said, look, actually, I can't remember what I said. What did I say? I said the cabinet is with him, behind him, something to that effect.
Do you regret the way that played out? The way, not just the way it played out in the Dewan, but the way it played out subsequently and the implications that you had sided with the executive when you were in fact meant to be impartial?
I did not regret that. Of course, I learned a lesson that perception is important. But this is also fueled by my refusal to explain things. I chose that path deliberately, right? It's not that I refuse to explain things. I mean, in the EC, I explain things every day, right?
So why do you take that deliberate
approach?
As
a speaker, I find it not proper for me to explain things. No, I think I choose the wrong word. I feel that the speaker should not explain outside the Dewan or what he does in the Dewan. Because I don't want to polemicize my ruling. Otherwise, how am I going to do my job? If I have to explain my ruling, each and every one of my ruling.
Okay,
so I will explain it to the MP. Okay, while I sit, I will always explain. And if I reject any usul, any motion, I will write a long letter explaining the reasons.
Okay, I want to touch on that in a bit, but I
have never explained to the public because I find, to me, my policy is I should not be explaining it because it will just polemicize my rulings. Similarly with the judge, when they make a ruling, they write judgments, and that's it. That's it. They don't answer anymore. It's the same with me.
Well, but that really important part of your job is the perception. You know, the justice must be seen to be done. Similarly to the judiciary, you must be seen to be impartial. So when there is a perception that you are not, for instance, in the leniency that you are seen to have shown Najib Razak, how can you not explain yourself?
What leniency?
Well, okay, a couple of times where you gave him an extension from answering 1MDB questions because he was away campaigning in Johor. The fact that you've allowed him to come back to Dewan Rakyat as a convicted criminal. You saying that it's not your role to say anything on that?
Sure. Under the law, his disqualification does not take effect That's the law. It's not only the law, that's the Federal Constitution, the mother of our law. The Federal Constitution say if he files a pardon, if he applies for pardon within 14 days of the dismissal of the appeal, or he filed any other court proceeding in respect of his conviction and sentence, his disqualification does not take effect until those two things are disposed of.
Until the period is over. But what?
No, until the period is over. Until those applications are disposed of.
Okay.
Right. So, because his disqualification does not take effect until those proceedings are disposed of, he is still an MP.
Okay.
So, because he is still an MP, he can still come to the Dewan. Have you ever heard an MP coming to the Dewan, knocking on my door, Mr. Speaker, can I walk into the Dewan? No.
Okay, but there's a difference because, I mean, help me understand this, Art. There is a difference because he is a convicted criminal. He is incarcerated. He cannot go to Starbucks to buy a caramel macchiato. How can he come to Dewan Rakyat? He
is still a member of parliament. What can I do? I cannot stop a member of parliament from coming to the Dewan. You must remember, Melisa, at every start of our sitting, the Menteri Dalam Negeri will stand up and move a motion that all obstacles are taken off, all barriers are taken off so that MP can come to the Dewan. And that's approved by the whole Dewan at every sitting. That is not ceremonial, you know. That is the first agenda in the standing order for every parliament. So when an MP is an MP, even though he is disqualified, but his disqualification does not take effect, he is entitled to come to the Dewan if he could present himself. Okay, so the issue is whether he could present himself, right? And that's not within my domain. Who has his custody? The prison has his custody. So to present himself, he must get the prison's permission. So, you know, I'm just implementing the law. But assuming the prison say you can go to the parliament, but you must be wearing the prison orange shirt and handcuffed. Okay, let's say he comes like that. Then the power is mine. Because the standing order say you must be properly suited, wear a suit to come to the Dewan. Then that power is mine. Then I will say, no, you cannot come. Because you don't follow standing order. You see? So, I can't. I mean, if I disallow him from coming, if he could present himself, then I could be sued.
Okay, all right. So I want to come back quickly to what you said about motions being rejected, debates being blocked. I think that's quite an interesting area to touch on because there were opportunities to have robust discussion in Parliament. We have so few opportunities in the past year or so to have had those robust discussions. But there were many times you chose to block some of the debates from happening. And I know you've explained it's not like debate sekolah. It's not like that. It's not like a school debate. There's a different decorum and protocol and convention in the hall. But could you have done more to facilitate? Wouldn't that be the onus of the speaker to allow for Malaysians to hear debates of the hall?
Are you referring to the Sulu thing or the Banjir thing?
I'm referring to Sulu, to Banjir, to Pandora Papers, to the economic situation of the country. I can name a few more, but why don't you explain?
Okay, the Banjir thing, first of all, there wasn't any usul. There wasn't. The Banjir happened on a Friday night. Saturday, no usul. Sunday, no usul. Everybody has my WhatsApp. They could just file usul at 12 midnight. And I bet you, I will reply. Because I reply to MPs even at 11 p.m. on a Saturday night. Okay? So, no usul. So, it was the Monday when suddenly Lemah Pantai stood up and said, we want to argue about Banjir. I said, you know, I need to tell which minister to answer. If you talk about Banjir, unemployment is Banjir, food security is Banjir, NADMA is Banjir, everything under the sun is banjir. So which minister am I going to ask to answer? So the matter has to be specific. That's why we want it to be in writing. And for usul tergempar, it's just 24-hour notice. You know, you write to me and say this is the issue is specific, is of public importance, and it needs to be sped up. Meaning it's emergency. Then I will allow it. All right. So there wasn't any usul. So when there is no usul, what are we going to discuss? Number one, and who are the minister who are supposed to answer? Number two. That's why we need usul. So banjir, there wasn't any usul. But you will remember also, after that sitting, there was an usul, and I allowed it. I allowed it. You see, one thing about usul tergempar ni, emergency usul ni, is that the matter is not supposed to be debated, number one.
Right.
Usul tergempar is not a substantive motion, meaning there is no question for me to put to the floor for a resolution to be made.
But don't you think that those were issues of national importance?
Yeah, it's supposed to only for discussion. Only for discussion, and it must be urgent. It must be urgent. So like the Pandora Papers, it wasn't the Pandora Papers, right? The Pandora Papers happened several years ago. This was
I think it was raised to discuss it. It was Pandora Papers, if I'm not mistaken.
No.
The Panama Papers.
Panama Papers.
I could be mistaken. Yes.
Yeah, I'm confusing between the two. Anyway, the Pandora Papers was about secret accounts abroad, right?
Okay.
And the Panama Papers was about shareholding.
So is this similar to the Sultan of Sulu, where you say you don't want to reveal to the public the government's affairs?
But that was okay. Okay, what happened there was...
Was there no discretion to have some way... I mean, you could navigate the discussion to have parameters so you don't reveal state secrets. But to block it completely feels completely...
How to control that? Because when you discuss things, you will just say things, you know. And then the minister is supposed to answer. If the minister doesn't answer, then the opposition will say, how come you are not answering this and answering that? But however, Melisa, despite that, the Special Select Committee on International Matters sat 2 or 3 days, I think 2 or 3 times, to hear the Sulu matters. And I'm happy to report, the AG was there, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was there, I think the Home Ministry was there, and Petronas was there.
Okay. Stakeholders in a room.
Stakeholders. Okay. So, and they have prepared a report which was supposed to be tabled at this sitting.
Okay.
Yeah, but it wasn't tabled yet.
Well, we're running out of time, Art. I do want to ask, so coming back to the motions issue, why did you reject the 17 MPs motion on citizenship for Malaysian mothers?
Okay, I like this. All right. I explained in-depth manner the reason why I rejected that. I'm all for it. Okay, let me just state that. But, however, citizenship matters, we cannot amend the constitution on citizenship matters without the consent of Majlis Raja-Raja. So, you have to go to the Conference of Rulers first before moving that. That's the real reason. I've got no other reason. And I have stated that in the letter, but I do not know whether any of the MP refer to that paragraph of mine. You see, that's a problem with narrative. And that's a problem with headline. Speaker reject the motion. But why do I reject it? I just can't accept that motion. Because the Constitution says you cannot change citizenship matters in the Federal Constitution without the consent of the Conference of Rulers.
Well, maybe it is time for you to reconsider your deliberate approach of not explaining the reasons behind your actions.
I've already explained it in the letters. And of course, you know, the MPs whose motions were rejected should refer to what I say in my letter.
In the last minute that we have left, what is next for Harun? Are you going to be back in the legal scene? Are you going to be reviving your blog, the art of what was the blog again?
No, that's not the blog. That's the YouTube.
The art of the matter. Excuse me. Yes, are you going to be reviving all of that?
Who knows? I do not know what the future holds. I do not know what the result of the GE will be, and of course, if I will not I'm not the speaker anymore, I will be practicing. Because
what's your sense of the direction of democracy in this country?
It's flourishing.
Okay. What supports your assumption that it's flourishing?
Well, we have seen the changes brought after GE14, and there is no more going to be a unicentric government after this. That's my feeling. It's all going to be based on coalition and alliances, and probably the MOU will also play a role in the future. So I think it's flourishing. Voices are now heard. Of course, some are strident, some are not. Some are intellectualized, some are not. Okay. Some are more emotional. But I think it's flourishing.
All right. Thank you for being on the show tonight.
Thank you so much.
That's all the time we have for you on this episode of Consider This. That was my conversation with Tan Sri Azhar Azizan Harun, or better known by his pen name Harun. And I'm Melisa Idris, signing off for the evening. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.